Now, welcome to another weekend ramble, where this time the topic will be what?
We're going to talk about can I call it a plague of an infestation of live action projects that are based on animated material for the most part?
Okay. Is it all a plague, or are there some?
Well, it's not all a plague, but I just feel like we've had so much overkill. I mean, think about it. Disney has remade every animated classic. I feel like every animated classic from my childhood, or even before or after, has now turned into live action or has been announced that they're going to make it into live action.
Yep.
And most of them have not been received very well. It's like a 50-50 scenario.
Yeah, I've seen some of the Disney ones. You would make me watch the original, and then we would watch like Aladdin. I had never seen original.
I thought
Aladdin.
the remake of Aladdin, the live action, was always pretty fine.
It's all right.
The Beauty and the Beast one, I give it a good,
You
thumbs
maybe
up
watch
on
that
that.
one too. Yeah.
Mulan didn't have the singing, which some of the songs in Mulan are like amazing. So it was really like a downer that it wasn't a musical, and they varied up the plot a little bit more than I expected. The Lion King loses some of its magic when you make all of your photorealistic animals.
Creepy, you mean?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. And they had the same problem, I think, with The Little Mermaid. Aside from their controversial casting choices, a lot of the colors and everything seemed so much more muted because they wanted to set a realistic-ish tone, but it's an animated classic. You need those bright colors and vibrant fish and zany numbers, and I felt like they missed the boat on that.
Jeez.
They may have floundered a little.
Oh, boy.
But they made something like Maleficent and Cruella, which were based on the villains telling an original story-ish, which I feel like maybe were a little more successful.
Yeah, I think one thing I find interesting about turning like something that's animated into live action is like how excited people get, even though they like have this profound love of the original, be that Disney classics or the upcoming Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's a lot. I mean, I'm excited for that. Don't get me wrong. I saw the animated one 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But it's like, why do you think that is? Why do you think people like get so excited about the live action versions?
Is it because the material that these things come from is generally very beloved, and they're
it's
attacking
beloved,
that nostalgia?
Well, certainly that's the corporate side of it. Like why you would make this project in the first place is because
Money,
you're going to have a guaranteed audience.
You've
essentially
got a built-in audience because the people who watched it at that time now have the money and want to share this material to people. Right.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, if you and I'm not trying to, like, say I disagree or I don't think it's right or anything like that, but I'm just curious what it is like when you have this beloved, again, we'll use Avatar because it's the new
fresh,
series is coming out.
New
and
trailer
if you go on the trailer, like, there's people who, I grew up with this, it was my childhood. Now I'm in tears watching this trailer. I don't know if they're literal or just, figurative tears, but, like, why is that? Like, why is it because it's, like, real? "Quote unquote," now you're seeing like real actors and real sets or CGI sets and all these things. It's a very curious thing how people get so excited for like this to be brought into live action.
Part of me wonders if it's like a tonal type thing. Maybe you feel like this isn't cartoon because in your mind, whether you want to believe it or not, cartoon is generally looked at as for younger audiences. Yeah. Especially this show. This show came out on Nickelodeon when I was younger.
Yeah, I certainly think, especially here in, say, the United States, there's a stigma around cartoons, right?
Cartoon equals this is meant for kids. When you're bringing this into live action, you're telling people, no, take this seriously. This is an actual thing. This is an actual story. The story was good enough for them to want to adapt it.
Yeah, I mean, it also can potentially bring something to audiences that wouldn't have normally watched it.
Right,
I look at One Piece, for example.
Absolutely.
I had heard of its existence. I knew it was like this really long-running anime.
Really long, yeah.
Knew virtually nothing about it. And then, I'm on Netflix and, you're scrolling through and you're like, oh, that looks interesting. I watch it and it turns out to be, like, fantastic.
It's so hard because I was like, I've seen the anime back in the day and I had you watch the first episode after we watched all of One Piece.
Yes.
Because I saw it back in the day. Not exactly my animation style of choice, but I was like, I wasn't impressed with it back in the day. That wasn't my shtick. But I absolutely enjoyed and loved the live action version.
It was really good.
They captured the whimsical nature, but because it was live action, it also felt more real in a sense.
Yeah, I think
because it's no longer
got real people in there,
quote unquote cartoon.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's what it is because it somehow legitimizes it in a way.
Perhaps. And if they do it properly, it's perfect.
It's hard to do it properly. I mean, even One Piece, from what I understand, there are obviously deviations from
Have
the
to be
anime.
a few, yeah.
But you will accept them as long as it's overall good. I mean, I look at something like Lord of the Rings, not coming from animation, obviously.
Right.
But obviously the Peter Jackson trilogy tried very, very hard to honor Tolkien's original work, even though there are some deviations, but you accept them because the original spirit is there, the original or the intent is there to honor it.
I think you can say the same about the first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones.
Oh my God, yeah. Like the first season in particular, like
It's
almost word for word from the book at times.
Yes, because after we watched the first season, we got the books.
I had never really heard of it.
We were like, I guess I didn't need to read the first book. It's pretty much exactly
It was uncanny, yeah, because I watched that first season. I'm like, oh my God, I got to read these books. So I read the first book, and I'm like, I didn't really even need to read this book because that first season is almost identical. And of course, it deviates slowly but surely from there, but
There's just something about the adaptation, because you're looking forward to it, because it's a piece of something that you loved. And you're saying, if they're going to remake a piece of something that I loved, you want it to be what you remember, but you want it to be fresh. And that's what live action can bring. They're not going to remake the cartoon, because that doesn't generally bode well.
No, that wouldn't. I don't think anybody would be excited for that. If they're going to continue the story, and I know there's the Legend of Korra, but if say they were going to continue Aang's story, somehow, people probably would be more excited. Well, but if you try to just redo
books. There's actually
there's other material
out there that covers some more of Aang's life. But when the first movie came out, M. Night Shyamalan, I was so excited because it came out. It didn't feel like it was too long after I had watched, maybe the first or second time I had watched Avatar. I was over the moon. And then disappointed. Entirely disappointed, because it didn't capture the feeling. Things didn't look right. But this new trailer, I was kind of geeking out. I was watching the new trailer. I'm going, I know this character. I know this story arc. I'm glad they're honoring the material, but bringing it fresh and new to live action adds something to it.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of when they did He-Man. Or Masters of the Universe. I loved He-Man as a kid. Mm-hmm. And then they made the movie, and I was like,
I love that movie.
That's not exactly the He-Man I thought it was going to be. We went to Earth, and
he looked the part.
Dolph Lundgren, actually, absolutely looked the part. But
might have benefited from not having Prince Adam, but
and it weirdly, I loved the movie as a kid because I really wanted to, not because I really. I watched it not long ago, and I was like, huh.
It's kind of like you have to convince yourself to like it, because you feel like if you didn't like it, you're not a He-Man fan anymore. Yeah.
Especially when you're that young, you don't really understand, they just made a really bad movie. You're like, this is He-Man.
But it's actually on the category of so bad it's great.
Yeah, it gets so bad that you can now enjoy it for different reasons. But Transformers is another example. When I was a kid, I could have never imagined Transformers in live action because, you're talking the 80s, we didn't have the technology.
Right, and those first trailers come out, you see the first movie, and you're like, this is what I want. I wanted to see what this would look like.
Yeah.
Beyond just, this is an imaginary world, this is how things work, this is how things work in our world, this is how everything looks, this is the scale, the scope, how they sound. It's an entirely new experience, and it really helps you with visualizing.
Yeah. It's just cool. It somehow, I don't think legitimizing it is the right word, but it somehow just makes it a little more special. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what the word is.
I know what you're feeling, though.
Yeah.
Just like when they brought Sandman to Netflix, I was super excited. I still think the show is fantastic. And that comes from a comic book, but a lot of the stories are pretty much beat for beat right out of the tales.
Yeah.
So what makes us want to keep giving these projects a chance when it seems to be a 50-50 shot?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, I think the intent is very important. The intent of really wanting to honor what it was and bringing maybe something a little new to it. I think there's a very, very fine line there between trying to change it and trying to honor what it originally was.
But I think it's also a way to share this with somebody. Me asking you before, obviously you did it anyway. I asked you to watch Avatar. You had never watched Avatar as a kid. You're like, do I have time for this?
It wasn't around when I was a kid.
It was Avatar. You're like, I don't know. But then the live action comes out, and it's easier to say to people, have you seen that on Netflix? It's live action. You don't even say live action. That Avatar, The Last Airbender. Because you want them to love the things you love.
I think that has a lot to do with it, yeah.
Adult telling them, hey, love the things I love. By the way, it's a cartoon.
Yeah, I
doesn't
could
always
never.
get the same response. Like telling people now to go back and watch the Clone Wars, it's still hard.
I can't.
But you can tell them to watch Ahsoka.
I know some. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I know some really huge Star Wars fans who will not watch the Clone Wars. Like, absolutely just refuse to watch it, no matter what I say. Even I'm like, I'll sit down and watch some really good episodes with you. Nah, don't want anything to do with it.
No, because it's a cartoon. It's got that stigma. It's not meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah, so if you are a huge fan of Avatar, you grew up with it, and you maybe want other people to enjoy it as well, you know live action is going to spread that. You know there are people going to watch that who would never watch the cartoon.
Can you imagine if the Squid Game that came out on Netflix, can you imagine if that was animated instead of not animated? I feel like you would lose some of the emotional impacts, because even though you might love the characters if they were animated, I also feel like it loses something to think, to feel that these aren't real lives at stake the same way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's certainly easier to connect with an actual actor or actress over animated, even though a good voice actor can, I think, deliver it almost
good
as
voice
well
actor,
as
great
live action.
artist.
Yeah, the combination of it and the writing, all you get all of that, and it really doesn't necessarily matter. But
Exactly.
I think it's still easier to do it in live action.
Right. So there's definitely a lot of good reasons why the live action market is succeeding.
Yeah, the transitional, let's go from animated to live action, even though...
I mean, they're preying on the nostalgia. They're making it easier to share with media when you're an adult and you liked something from your childhood that now got reproduced. I mean, I've heard so many people talking about One Piece, and I just get floored when someone's like, "Did you see One Piece?" I'm like, I'm the otaku here. What are you... What are you watching One Piece for? You never would have given anime a chance, ever, ever, ever. And now you're going to come to me and tell me how great One Piece is.
I think that's me.
It's so weird to me.
Is it?
As somebody who, like, loves original anime, watched it all the time as a kid growing up, to then hear somebody who I don't think ever really would have given anime a chance come back and tell me how great this live-action version of an anime is, it's kind of weird.
Is it insulting in any way?
In some way, I feel like it's a gatekeeping moment for me, because I'm like, you aren't an anime fan.
You want to be the gatekeeper. Look at that.
It feels a little like that in some respects.
I can understand that.
But it's weird, because now it's like, can I try and get them to watch other anime, or are they
Probably
still...
not.
The stigma's still there. They just liked this one project.
Yeah.
Weird. Whole thing is weird and bizarre, and I don't like that.
Look at you gatekeeping. Look at you go.
Well, us anime fans stick together. We protect our projects. We love them. We will wait 6, 7, 8 years for a sequel that we were promised,
that
or
is
the
the
season 2.
strangest part of anime. Like, you've gotten me into anime more than I've ever. I've had previous people who have tried to get me into it, and it's been fine. But you obviously more than anybody else, and like sometimes I get into a show and it's like, what? I gotta wait like 5 years for the next season. Like,
but the next season's fantastic, isn't it? It's not like they cranked it out and let you down.
No, that's what I appreciate. They're not going to rush it out. They're going to take their time. They're going to make it right, no matter what.
Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, well, you thought that was the final season? Well, it turns out there's still more to tell. We're not quite done. Let's put out a movie.
Sure.
They'll do that.
But they know how to end them, too.
They do.
Like, that's the funny thing about anime, and I appreciate it. It kind of goes with my video I did the other day about, like, content and storytelling. Like, in anime, like, if they're done, like, no, they're done. They're not just going to, like, give you another season.
Like, I know this was really successful, but this was the story.
Yeah, massively successful shows, and they're like, no, we're done. That was the story. We're not going to keep it going just to keep it going and to milk your money.
Right.
Appreciate that, actually.
If anything else, they'll make a next generation type thing, and they'll keep going that way.
Yeah.
Like they did with Naruto, which I'm still not done with Shippuden.
I didn't know there was Naruto like the next generation.
There is. There's Naruto when he's a kid, Naruto Shippuden when he's more in his teenage years, and then there's Boruto, which is the next generation.
So sometimes they do keep the story going for a very long.
Oh, the Naruto story is so good.
But when they're done with their story, it's done.
It's like you can watch all of the Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, and that could be it for you. You don't have to keep going.
Sure.
Just like Inuyasha, I liked where that ended. I really haven't watched any of the sequel show.
Yeah.
Not that it isn't good. I just really haven't had time. My anime list is so full.
It is. It's always full. It
So
gets
full.
increasingly bigger, too. It doesn't
It really
seem to
does.
shrink, does
and then
it?
my dad's like, have you watched this one? I'm like, add it to the list.
It's always
I have
enjoyable.
to bump it up because he wants to talk to me about it now.
It's always enjoyable watching you and your dad together when he's just constantly asking, like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Well, don't watch this. You should watch this. Have you seen this?
I like when he gets on one that you've seen, and you're like, ha! I have seen this one.
I can chime
Classroom
in.
of the Elite, you said. Aha!
Every now and then I get the chime in, yeah.
Yeah. Who's that Goblin Slayer I heard?
Yeah, that I can definitely chime in on. We just finished watching season 2, or the last episode of season 2.
Yeah.
At least we think it's the last
I don't
episode.
know.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there's some more. It's hard to tell. They don't always publish weekly.
No.
Whatever.
Yeah, episode 12 seemed to be the finale. It seemed that the story seemed to be wrapped up too, but who knows? At least for now.
Who knows? For now.
But
He'll be back.
But for now, that's going to be all we got for you this time. Now it's your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell us what you think about bringing something into live action. Why do people seem to just love it so much? Is it for the reasons we're citing? Are we missing something? Or maybe you don't think it's a good idea to do it. Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some...
Everything?
Yeah. And until next time, thanks for watching.